Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on Venomancer. No fun allowed. Venomancer is a ranged universal dude, by which I mean he can play a wide variety of roles, but in most cases is relegated to a support. His most iconic feature is the fact that he makes you really freaking slow all the time. This is due to the fact that he has multiple different damage over time effects that all stack on each other to make sure that you're having as little fun as possible, while he himself is having an okay time at best. Venomancer accomplishes this task through literally all four of his abilities, which either make you slow or make it easier for him to make you slow. His insane damage over time stacking compounds with the Urn of Shadows, which is already one of the single best items in the current meta. This makes Venomancer an absolute terror in the lane because he can pick up an urn very early and deal a metric ton of magic damage while also ensuring that his lane partner gets all of their spells and right clicks off. After the laning phase, Venomancer is an amazingly fast farmer and can use his ability Plague Wards to set up shop in a jungle camp and take dangerous farm without any worry in the world, because if you try to chase him out, all of his little poopers are going to slow you to shit and you can't catch up to him. The end result is a hero that absolutely is aware of the fact that Dota 2 is a zero-sum game. One person is guaranteed to have more fun than all the others, and the best way to ensure that the Veno player has the most fun is to make sure that no one else has any at all. Before getting into his damage over time effects, first let's talk about his farming abilities. Unlike many other supports, Venomancer is capable of farming jungle camps at a shockingly efficient speed. This is thanks to Plague Ward, his ability that puts down a single unit on the ground that deals physical damage while also applying Poison Touch, his premier passive. Poison Touch deals damage over time as well as slowing movement speed, but the true advantage of Plague Wards is their ridiculous range, long duration, and the fact that jungle creeps will not target them as long as Venomancer is near. This means that he can drop down a bunch of them near a camp or two, and then kite the creeps over to make sure that the Plague Wards apply damage as often as they can. If any enemy hero waddles over to deal with it, the Plague Wards can then target them, ensuring that they won't be able to chase down the Venomancer despite his low movement speed. This play pattern makes Venomancer an absolute favorite for role queuers, but dedicated spammers know that they can use it to farm up an insane amount of items really quickly. This hero can set up shop in the enemy triangle, locking off the ancient camp and the hard camp from the enemy carry while they're desperately trying to recover from their lost lane. They lost that lane also because of Veno. In addition to dealing physical damage and applying Poison Touch, Plague Wards can also be used for a wide variety of uses. The most obvious one is putting them up on a ward spot with a sentry down low in order to de-ward. Not only can they get vision so you can de-ward anything that's up there, but they can also right-click the ward and, albeit slowly, de-ward it all by themselves. This makes Venomancer extremely good in the vision game because the cast range of Plague Wards is ridiculously high. He can safely de-ward from a mile away and there's not much you can do about it. Plague Wards also take up a small section of the floor, which means that you can actually use them to body block in conjunction with Venomancer himself. The premier spot for this is over by the hot tub near the offlane tier 1 towers. Put Veno on one side, drop a Plague Ward behind them, and now they can no longer run from you. If the enemy team has any kind of Blink Dagger users, go ahead and drop down Plague Ward and have it target them. Note that Poison Touch does not disable Blink, nor does it interact with Clarities, Healing Salves, anything like that, but the initial physical damage will cancel Blink, Clarities, and Salves. This can make him an absolute menace in the lane, and of course, that's why you max Plague Ward first. If all of that wasn't enough for you, you should also be happy to learn that Plague Ward is effectively magic immune, because it cannot be targeted with spells. Also, for some reason, when a tower uses Fortify, it can either target the creep wave or a single Plague Ward. It cannot target multiple. I do not know why this is. This is also true for Gyrocopter Flat Cannon and Medusa Split Shot. All of the strange things that it can do combine to make Plague Ward one of the single best support abilities in the entire game. Oh, and it applies an insane damage over time effect in case you forgot. Now let's talk a little bit about his spells. Venomous Gale is a point target skill shot that can hit multiple heroes and applies a 50% slow that slowly degrades over the course of 15 seconds. That alone makes it one of the single best Blink Dagger cancelers in the game, but it also is an absolute terror in the lane because of the extended duration of the slow combined with its damage over time effects. Poison Touch, which can be applied via the Plague Ward or Venomancer himself, slows for 14%. But Noxious Plague is the most interesting slow of them all. His ultimate, which affects one enemy hero at a time, causes them to instantly become boy preggers, and after a set period of time, they will automatically get a boy-bortion. This will forcibly boy impregnate all of the enemy heroes nearby, which also causes them to take damage in a significant movement speed slow. If you decide to go the Patient Zero facet, it will also automatically apply an IFV treatment to all of the heroes so they can get boy preggers again. This constant influx of slows causes up to 4 heroes on the enemy team to all be really slow and take damage over time, and it's pretty good. I actually prefer the other facet, but you can do it if you want. While there are plenty of ways to counteract movement speed slows in Dota 2, the fact that he dishes out so many of them so frequently makes it really difficult to deal with him as a whole. And while you may be able to pop BKB and kill him, the Plague Wards remaining behind are ready to slow you once again. Now, if you're paying attention, you may note that his innate kit without Aghanim Shard already deals 3 damage over time effects to you, which all count as debuffs. Upon picking up Aghanim Scepter, Venomancer will deal 25% extra bonus damage for every single debuff that affects you. That includes all 3 of his own debuffs, along with Urn, Scotty, Desolator, whatever the hell else is happening to you. This means that Venomancer can hit for an unexpectedly insane amount of damage, though unfortunately it means getting close to you. However, Venomancer fears death much less than he fears fatherhood, so don't worry too much, we'll talk about it later. Alright, so if Venomancer appeals to you, first off, that's tough, dude. I don't want to play turbos with you on Monday. Second off, here's how to play him. First off, he's a very versatile laner. He works really well as both a babysitter and in a kill lane. It really depends a lot on whether or not you're going to play him as a position 4 or 5. If you are going into the offlane, try to pair up with another hero with burst magic damage of some sort. Centaur Warrunner is a personal favorite. It makes a lot of sense as a duo. As for carries, any kind of fellow ranged carry that can still put out damage, something like a Drow Ranger, Gyrocopter, Sniper, those tend to work the best in my experience. You're going to spend the majority of the time trying to get as many DOTs on the enemy laners as you can without dying in return. But even if you do, it's not that big of a deal. Getting Venomous Gale on 1 or 2 enemy laners and dropping a bunch of Plague Wards isn't the worst way to exit this beautiful mortal world we live in, because it likely means that your lane partner is going to pick up a kill or 2 in the crackback. If things aren't going up to speed, you can just do your best to apply DOTs safely using the Plague Wards and then run back into the jungle. Because of Plague Wards, he's also very good at blocking the enemy camps, which means that he's really good at playing the pull game against the opposing support, very annoying to deal with. And then, once the camps are unblocked, he can actually take really good advantage of them early on by farming them with Plague Wards. Remember, they will not aggro the Plague Wards themselves unless they're the only thing within aggro range. So as long as you can kite the enemy creeps, you can basically farm without taking any damage for an extremely low amount of mana. Once you get into the mid game, you're going to be picking up a lot of stereotypical defensive items for a support. Glimmer Capes, Force Staffs, you know the drill. Your entire goal here is to just get as many of your spells out before dying. Keep in mind, I didn't say without dying, I said before, because Veno is also very, very slow, and the enemy heroes are going to be absolutely enraged by your presence and will dive you as soon as it's convenient to do so. You will die a lot playing this hero. As long as you can get your ultimate off and drop as many spells as you can feel good about having 18 deaths by the end of the game. If you ever feel bad about your performance, just know that there is actually a formal name for when you have 0 kills, 20 deaths, and still win the game on Venomancer. This is called the Malk Award, and you are not a true Veno spammer until you have earned it at least once. Later on in teamfights, your primary goal is going to be applying your DOTs while also using Plague Wards to strategically set up vision and cancel Blink Dagger cooldowns. Remember that Poison Touch does not cancel the blink, but the actual right-click from the Plague Ward does. The cooldown is enough that as long as you can maintain vision of the opposing offlaner, you can make sure that his blink is always uncomfortably close to getting cancelled. If they ever drop a Ravage or an Echo Slam to absolutely zero avail, congratulations, you've done your job and you can die like a warrior. I wrote a little bit about how the RTS mechanics that originated in Dota 1 still affect the game today. Feel free to read about it here. Now, if you're tired of losing to this piece of shit, and I understand why, here's a couple of tips I have on how to beat Venomancer. First off, having access to any kind of dispels in the lane is a massive boon against Venomous Gale. Oracle and Legion Commander are the obvious choice. They have really good dispels that are on low cooldowns that you can use to run away after he casts it. Venommancer is also quite notable because you can use your W to purge it at pretty much any time for a very low mana cost. If you don't have access to these things, just tough it out. Position conservatively and do your best to not get chased down whenever the spell is cast. It does have a considerable cooldown, so try to track it roughly in your head. If it is on CD, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Now, whether or not you have dispels, if you're playing against a Veno, you're going to be slow a lot of the time. This means that damage that doesn't really have anything to do with movement is really good to have. Heroes that can just sit there and right-click, like Sniper, Gyrocopter, etc., are really good against this hero. Or heroes that can just use Blink to get around instead of actually moving, like Anti-Mage, Quap, and the like. Weaver is also really good because you can't be slowed during Shikuchi, and because of his insane damage, he can oftentimes pop the Veno before he gets a lot of his spells off. And as for countering slows, there's really only one item in the game that does it well. Boots of Bearing is an insane quality pickup against this hero. Yes, you've probably never bought it in your last 100 games, but if you see a Veno on the enemy team and he's doing a lot in team fights, go ahead and pick it up even if you already have a different form of boots. Boots of Bearing really is that good against Veno. Finally, Venomancer is quite slow, quite squishy, and, while he does buy a lot of defensive items, is relatively easy to kill 100 to 0 with a couple of stuns. If you have a method to get on top of him and kill him before he casts any spells at all, you should absolutely pursue him. Consider him a priority target. In conclusion, Venomancer is a very fun hero, and you should absolutely play him. Surely the effects of your spells and passives will have no effect on the global economy, and just 30 minutes of precautions should be enough to get back to normal. Peace on planet Earth.